hello everyone to season 4 of the Falling for Learning podcast. This is our first episode of season 4, and we have a wonderful guest here today. Wanda Lee Florestine is both an author and she's the creator and lead of the Little Authors Bookmaking event that's going to be held this month at the Obama Presidential Center. So you don't want to miss this episode. You want to find out how you could be a part of it and get all the details behind it. Hi, thank you so much for joining the Falling for Learning podcast. I am TD Blennaw. We have this podcast to help parents and caregivers with having the resources, strategies, and tools needed to make sure that their children are on track for learning and to stay on track for success.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, TD, for having me. I'm so happy to be here and so excited about the event. Yes, it is happening on Saturday, July 25th at the Obama Presidential Center. And I actually just returned from Chicago for the grand opening ceremony that I attended on Thursday and then visited the center on Saturday. And I cannot wait for these kids to have this experience. It's going to be so exciting.
Oh my goodness. So you were able to go to the event, the actual opening of the Presidential Center on June 18th.
Yeah,
I won 2 that must have, tell us, you won 2 tickets. Tell us more. Tell us what happened.
I won 2 tickets. I had been put in a lottery, I guess, of potential winners for the opportunity to attend. And, you know, it's a lottery, so you don't think you have a great chance of anything there. And then I got my email that said, "You're in, Wanda." And I was like, "I'm in what?"
Okay.
And then oh my gosh. And, you know, I was going to get there by planes, trains, or automobiles, whatever it took for me to get there. I was going to make sure that I would be in attendance. So I'm very excited that I got to be a part of that part of history. That's really cool. I've never been to a presidential library center before, and certainly haven't won a lottery like that before. So it was just really great all around.
Okay, that's what you call blessed and highly favored, okay?
Right?
Chosen. Okay. All right, so let's get into this event. So you have never been to a presidential center or library, but you have conceived of this event. So tell us about what gave you this idea. We know you're an author. Like, tell us about it.
Yes, so my Little Authors Bookmaking Workshop was conceived. It felt like it was a pregnancy part. When I owned a bookshop on Main Street in my hometown of Hercules, California. As a parent of 2, I raised 2 children who are now in their mid-20s and adulting very well. Wanted not to attend so many Chuck E. Cheese birthday party events during their primary and elementary school age years. And there was really no alternative outside of a picnic or something like that. So when it's the raining season, you can't really go outside either. And it's either go to the Chuck E. Cheese cesspool. No shade, Chuck E. Cheese, but there's a lot of germs flying around there.
Okay. Creators are going to create, okay?
And being an author myself and the owner of a bookshop, I'm like, kids should be writing books, you know? And I did remember when I was in elementary school, we got to do that. And it was more of a craft kind of thing versus write a book kind of thing. But the crafting of making that book was so much fun. And way back then, we had like old wallpaper samples that we used for the cover. I don't know if folks are old enough to remember those wallpaper booklets where you could just tear off a piece and then fold it into whatever you wanted to make it into. And the teacher would either glue it or staple it on paper inside of it. So you got to color and make your little figurines and, you know, do all the writing that you could do at that point in time. I think it was like 2nd or 3rd grade. So I wasn't the best person at writing, but it was something that I treasured. I just remember the pride I had when I took that book home and to show my mom, I made this book. And, you know, I'm pretty sure my smile was my whole face, right?
Yes.
It did get lost. I didn't manage to preserve it over the years, but I do have some friends that still have theirs that they made over 50 years
Oh,
ago.
that is such like a core moment, core memory, right?
It's a
About, creating, and you were an author at that point and you've
right.
gone on to
It was
do more
probably
books.
roses are red or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And such a different experience you could take away from, and unique, right? From like the Chuck E. Cheese experience or the
Hmm.
picnic.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
how long did you do that? So we know you did it for your kids, but it sounds like you also incorporated this into your bookshop itself.
Yeah, it was designed as a little party for up to 10 because it was me by myself, and the parents would be there too and they could assist. So exciting and so much fun for the kids and such a relief. Like it wasn't like you have
Yeah.
to run around the room and keep track of your child and you make sure that they're, not engaging in something, that could cause them harm or get lost or
Oh yes, we know Chuck E. Cheese can be very scary. Adults running in and out of there, and they may not all be, about the business of taking care of
exactly
kids. So,
that part.
yeah, this was a different atmosphere. I could see that. Yeah.
So it was very relaxing, but also very fun. And then we'd take pictures, through the event so that we could give them a custom one at the end to share what happened at the party. So it was really a fun idea. I'm like, this is a good idea. My daughter helped me craft a couple of different styles of books for them, and we published it on a Linerbo at that time. I think it was one of the social media platforms
Okay.
that we thought would be attractive to the local folks. And so, not knowing how to market, it did. I didn't get a long laundry list of clients, but I just really love the idea of again being an author myself, and also being a person who is my birth order is 8 in a family of 9. There was 9 of us,
Mm.
and I didn't have a voice, right? And so it took me decades, literally, to develop the confidence and courage to speak my voice. I think I tried to have one, and I got shut down in a spelling bee in the 4th grade, and then I just kind of
Oh.
rescinded for years after that, and then trying to recapture that voice and have that confidence in myself took some time. It just took time.
I just want to highlight that, that's something, that also bookmaking and, having your voice, right?
Hmm.
Capturing it in a permanent, you know, uh,
Yeah.
medium, but also, that confidence building, right?
Yes.
It's something that a lot of our kids, there's a lot of things out there that can attack their confidence or, poke holes in it.
Hmm.
But the more things that we could do to help build their confidence will help sustain them and help them to
Yes.
be stronger
Yes.
people and sure people about themselves and what they want in the world.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the key. Communication and confidence. If you strike gold on those two, then you really have nothing to worry about for your child.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, take us into how this event happened at the Obama Presidential Center. Like, so you hadn't been to a presidential
Library before.
center, but
Yeah.
you've heard about this opening. Like, how did this come about?
It just got the divine download, I guess. It's like, hey, why not? You missed the bookmaking workshops. Why not take it there? You don't have to have your own brick and mortar to do it. You can actually take it on the road. And then it was shortly after that idea came that I was like, wait, I could really take it on the road. Because when I thought on the road, I was kind of geographically placing myself in California specifically.
Yes, yes.
And then I thought, wait, we're having this new, presidential center, and it's the Obamas. I'm like, I'm gonna apply. And so I just went to
Yeah.
the Obama Foundation website and looked up the happenings there, and then submitted my idea with, a couple of pictures and the proposal, and they came back, yes, we can do this here. And the rest is history, as they say.
We were going to put it out, for the Obamas to come and see
Yes,
it. And
yes, you should.
yeah, it's amazing.
can I say something about that? The Obamas to come. You should come to this
Mm,
because I know y'all love reading to children,
yes.
but they need the other side. They need to have that confidence that their words matter and their voices matter. And I think since this is the first one of its kind in your presidential library, that you guys should
Okay.
just come and check us out. Come and witness the joy and the creativity in the classroom of the children. Stop by and give them a visit and give them that extra C, that courage.
Yes, July 25th,
Yes, July
2026. It's on a
25th.
Saturday. Yes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, it would be so amazing for them to come and the kids who are going to be there, the kids from the south side of Chicago are
Yes.
going to be making these books. They're going to be in this workshop. They're going to be able to walk away with their books.
Yes.
And
And lots of other goodies too.
yes, yes,
Mm.
yes, yes. Going to have some swag and some grab bags, some different things that they're going to have. I'm so um excited to be a part of it, and thank you so
Yes.
much for including me in
No.
this project.
Well,
Um
you were a natural one to include. It made all the sense in the world. It's like she actually wrote a book to fall in love with writing. You know, I'm just saying fall in love with writing, but
yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's all about that, right? That's I know we're so serious about writing and reading as parents and adults, but we really need to dial into the fun and the engaging part, the confidence boost, all the benefits and things that will really draw the kids to it. And
yeah,
so once they get into something, once they fall in love with something and they fall into a kind of addiction of something, you can't stop them from reading. Some of us, we can't stop them from playing video games or stop them on
right.
their phone. But if we could get that same spark for
Yeah,
reading,
yeah.
writing, learning in general, our kids will be unstoppable, right?
Yeah,
So,
my daughter, we attended a school that did a lot of creative play as the basis and the foundation of their education, and they were learning through activities versus starting right off with academics. So for her
mhm,
kindergarten and first grade years, they did not teach them how to read. And we were going along with the program because it was an established methodology, and it seemed
mhm,
really great. The campus was beautiful. It was 11 acres. They spent a lot of time in nature, and so my ex-husband and I would just go along with the program. But my daughter grew really tall, and we, live in our culture. And
yes, we do.
so when relatives and friends found out she wasn't reading, they would make, little criticisms about, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Your child is she, like, she can't, all the kids are learning how to read in pre-K and kindergarten, and now she's going to second grade and she can't read. And she didn't, because we were following along with the program. We're going to work this out and see if it works, right? And so
Yeah.
then we had to leave the school, and then she had to go to public school, and of course she was behind, and so we hired a tutor, and we were trying to get her caught up. And I don't know if it was their program or the fact that she was behind, and in her spirit she says no one's going to leave me behind, right? And
Yes.
she far out, paced any reader. I mean, she can now chew up a novel and critique it like a literary professor to you, and she can read a book in 2 or 3 days. She's not. She chews up words. And my son did it the traditional way. He was in a Catholic primary school for a year, and they started
Mhm.
pre-K and then kindergarten and public school in first grade. And you have to force him to read still. But she give her a book and she's done with it in a couple of days. So I don't know which system worked best.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. I know like a lot of parents will get very defensive when our family members are like, "Why isn't she able to do this?" Why, they'll get defensive, and I also feel like we also need to pay attention to that. When they're questioning what's going on with our kids, it's because they care.
Yeah,
And, don't just ignore it or get defensive. Like, really find out, is this a real challenge? Is my child really doing different things? And it'll help clue us into what we need to give our kids.
Yeah.
We talk about that village, and sometimes the village doesn't give us everything we want to hear, right?
Sometimes the village is
It
very
feels
critical.
bad.
Your comments like, you're paying $10,000 for babysitting? I'll babysit.
Yeah, and it doesn't always feel good, but it comes from a place of love, and it's
Yeah.
something we need to do, that reflection, that evaluation, right? If everyone is always just telling you positive things, it may
Right.
or may not be right, but those questions are needed. Like, well, what should they be doing? Is this
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
So, and it clued you in, and you made a difference as you
Yeah.
were pouring into your child as they're
Yeah.
learning. Yeah.
Yeah. It was an interesting period in our lives. I'll say that.
So, we're going to have the Little Authors Bookmaking Workshop at the Obama Presidential Center, Saturday, July 25th. And you talked a little bit about, you were an early author, making books. Can you tell us about what made you fall in love with learning as a child?
I don't know that I fell in love with learning. I just knew that I was good at it, right,
Mm,
as a child.
okay.
Because I didn't do a lot of homework. And I was able to be a straight A student in elementary school. Straight A and B's. Didn't always get A's, but I was in honor roll, but
Okay.
consecutively. And if we had our little projects that we had to go back in the day when book reports would go into walk to the library, go to the library and say, hey, I need to do a book report. Can I use the Dewey Decimal System? Pull
Yeah.
out the log file, get the card, find out where the book is, go get the book.
Yes, all the
The
things, all
librarian
those
will
steps.
get the book for you. And then you sit at a table and you read it and you take notes, of the content that was the factual things that you
The little
needed to.
index cards.
Yes, we had index cards
I know
and
about
paper.
that.
It just depends on, if you had the index cards or not. That was an extra expense
True, true,
in a
true.
family of
Just
9.
fold it up. Just fold it up and put it. Yes, you didn't
Had
need the
those
index cards.
makeshift index cards also. Tear that paper, make it right.
Yes, absolutely.
Do what you need to do. And then you had to finish all of that. If you didn't go finish the first day, you had to go back and do the same process again. Mind you, you had to walk at least 5 blocks unaccompanied by an adult.
Wait, you
Just
couldn't just take a picture of that item
no
or just
cameras
search
then.
up?
That was
No
not a
searching
thing.
up.
Oh gosh,
So
I'm
go
I'm
back to the library.
antiquated. Yes,
They couldn't
yeah.
just make a copy, that they just didn't copy it for you.
That, copiers weren't there in elementary school. They came later on in high school. And I don't even know if that was the true case because we had the dot makes printers before we had the copier. So you could print excerpts from different books using that dot matrix printer line by line. It would just go down and you'd see the sheets coming down behind the machine. It
Mm.
was hilarious.
I'm much
Well,
too young for that one. I have
you're
no idea
much
what you're
too
talking
young,
about.
and
Very,
probably
very
half
young.
the
No, just
people
playing.
on us listening are also, yeah. But it was quite an adventure to go to the library and do a book report, and then you had to put it all together and use your staples and turn it in. And sometimes you did the tear at the top of the page because you didn't have the staples.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Oh.
Wow. So you were really good at it. Was there anything that ever like slowed you down, right? Like it was easy and then there was something that was harder for you as you were navigating or matriculating through high school?
Trauma mostly. I did lose my mom in high school, and then there was
Oh,
movement around to whose house you're gonna live at as a teenager.
so sorry.
Yeah, and so just that part, and then it all changed because she was my cheerleader, and I didn't have that same relationship with my siblings, and my dad had died years before, and when I was in elementary school, and so
Wow.
then I had my siblings, and they were not too interested in my education. They had their own lives, and now they had to
Yes.
be responsible for a teenager. So it was kind of it was a challenge. Nobody knew what to do. There was no real, guidebook for how to manage your life after all of these things happen, situation.
Mm.
But I made it through, and I had a real core group of friends who were all as smart. Or smarter, and so we all supported each other too, so that was always helpful to have your tribe.
Yeah.
And then I also played sports. I was going to be on the swim team, but I quit before we actually started the meets because of the hair situation. It was just too much work.
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
and then played basketball. And I would say to anybody transitioning schools to immediately jump into some kind of club or sport activity or social group there that's a good social group to bridge the time that it takes to get you know
Friends. Yeah.
friends. It'll shorten that time, and you'll feel like you belong sooner than later, and it'll help you with your academics because you don't feel like an outsider or the new kid on the block, or just by yourself because you're the new person in the school because you had to leave somewhere where you had your established friends already. So my number one advice on that for anybody young listening and you're going through transition from one place to another and having to switch schools when you don't want to switch schools is to immediately join a team or a club or something so that you can immediately have folks that have things in common with what you'd like to do.
The Rewrite Method and the Rewrite Method Workbook are your go-to resource for helping kids to learn to fall in love with writing. It has the tips, tools, resources, strategies, and skill-building activities to help kids fall out of writing hate and into loving to write. Get your book set today. That is such an important, little gem of a wisdom. I mean, and that's what the Falling for Learning podcast is all about. Just navigating, like, how do we navigate all the changes that might occur in a child's life to help them stay on track or get back on track and, really prepare them to success, right? Because there's unexpected things that happen and we don't always have a playbook. We don't have playbooks for it, right? But, that's really important to know, to find a club, find a place where you can belong, and that'll help shorten that time for adjustment for you.
Yeah, and I did have a teacher that graded me harshly, I thought, for my book of poetry. She broke my heart. For one word. I should have gotten an A. I wrote like 8 poems, and there was one word on one poem that she didn't like the grammatical use of it, and she gave me a B plus, and I was so angry.
Yes, it's so hard, and I'm an English teacher too, and of course I've been an English student, and it's like there are some subjectivity to that, right? Right,
Uh-huh.
and we all know that there are books that people drool over, they love, they couldn't put down. You might pick it up, and you're like, "What is this?"
What?
So there is some objectivity. I know they make us do like rubrics and criteria charts and all of that. So we could try to lessen that subjectivity,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's hard. There's lots of, and even there's kids out there who are like, no, she gave me a low grade or lower grade than I thought. And, it's hard, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard.
The poem was called "The Teenager's Lament." I still remember a couple of the stanzas, because
Oh.
that's how traumatic it was for me that she
For
didn't give me
one word, she circled one word
yeah,
and was like B
my
plus.
whole 8 poems got a B plus instead of an A. And it was called "The Teenager's Lament." It started off, "Life is what troubles, the troubles of we. They
Oh.
they call us the future to be, but who are we? We all should know. We are the ones that are too old or too young to grow." It was a silly poem, but she circled because life is what troubles, the troubles of we. She didn't like the we.
And poetry is
It's
supposed to be
poetry is
creative.
supposed to have
So it's
creative
not supposed
license, right?
right, not to follow exactly the
Yeah.
way. And of course you change things around so that it fits
Right. It's
poetically,
got to
right?
rhyme. At
Oh
that
my
point, it had to
goodness.
rhyme.
I know. And I've definitely had students who are like, if I've shared a poem I really like, and they're like, this poem doesn't rhyme. This, and I'm like, well, there's other things about this poem that make it poetic. They're like, but it doesn't
Right.
rhyme. So
Right.
tell us about your career, like in your education journey after high school, that, you know, love of learning or the things that were easy to you for as a learner,
Yeah.
right? Helping move you forward in your career.
What was easy then was math and a little bit of science on the biology side until we got to the frogs, and then I didn't want to do it anymore.
The dissecting of frogs, didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I didn't want to be in science anymore after that. So then I switched to chemistry. The biology was not
Mm-mm.
it didn't sit on me well. I love that we had actual typing classes. That was a lot of fun and
Yes.
got myself up to like 70 words a minute. So that was really cool. Also just I did love English. I loved, the opportunity to create and make up things and write things. I used to write Dear John letters for folks, and I was, my
Wait a minute. So if I wanted to break up with my boyfriend, I can be
I would
like, Wanda, I don't know what to tell him, but I gotta let him go. So
right.
can you do this for me? Because I'm done.
Yeah, I just gotta I love telling people off. How let me just be real on that one. So that was because
So
I
what, you weren't letting them down easily? You were just really cutting them down. Like, I don't know how to say it, but I need you to let him know he's over.
I
So
blame my
yeah.
birth order. I was again number 8 out of 9. It was 6 boys. So I didn't have the verbal courage to say the thing, so I would use
But
the
you
pen.
could write.
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. I'm like, let's go for it.
He
And
hurt me. I need you to hurt him now with your work. Pick up the pen, Wanda.
I could also make people laugh. I also wrote funny stuff, and didn't know that that was a career option. Like to write comedy or
Mm,
to write. We only learned about plays in school and books. It was like so one of the two, and I didn't at that time say I was going to be an author. I didn't pursue that professionally. I ended up. Starting off in junior college for Spanish. I wanted to learn how to speak Spanish.
okay.
And so I did that, and I have an associate's degree in Spanish. And then when I decided what career to take, I kind of fell into organizational behavior because I've been a people person. I always say that I think I would, just because of my birth order, again, it's like the third time I said that in this conversation. But I think it
It's
has a big impact on your life.
yes, it does.
And I'm saying that because I was born at a time when there was already, what, I'm number 8, so there were 7 plus 2, 9 members of my immediate family, plus my grandmother lived upstairs with my mother's sister and her daughter, and
Mm-hmm.
my grandmother's sister. So there was 9 plus 4 is 13 people that was my immediate family when I was born. And so I'm pretty sure I was just passed around from one to the other, as opposed to a child that's the first child and all you have is mom and dad and you're all world to them. But me being the
Mm-hmm.
person that had, the tribe that I was born into, I think my capacity for getting along with people is huge because there were so many
Yeah.
personalities to navigate growing up here for 18 years in a household with those folks.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. And that naturally kind of fed into a sales career for me because I could talk to anybody, whatever age,
Yeah.
because we had the multi-generational situation as well. And then that transitioned to business, corporate sales. And then from there, I was really interested in the HR because I thought they, took care of the employees and did the things. And so my first HR job was recruiting,
Okay.
which was kind of sales because I had a knack for sales. I would, be a top producer, always do the good, reach my goals and exceed them. And so recruiting was kind of that. You're trying to, share your candidates with the employers to say, hey, this person is great. He's going to be a great fit for you. And here's why, XYZ, you wanted this, he has this, or she has this. And
Right.
so I did that and then got more into the HR side of things in terms of benefits administration. Then I did HR management and then training. And then I just fell back in love with teaching and learning again. Like teaching to me is learning because you learn how to teach each individual person.
Mm.
And so that just rekindled all of that, student teacher relationship, love for that exchange. And so in corporate America, I focused a lot on training and development. And then these last few years before I left corporate America in November to form Flow Up Productions, after a layoff, I didn't leave voluntarily. I'll just be straight about that.
Okay.
It pulled in my ability to be with people, to nurture them, to help them, navigate their careers, especially as a talent manager recruiter, because that's what you're doing. The bulk of your
Yeah.
time, you're helping people find the right fit and, help navigating them. You don't just have jobs that you offer them. You're actually helping them develop themselves. So that's kind of how I got here.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I want to take you back because you said you went to community college
Mhm.
first.
Mhm.
And that is a stickler for some people. It just depends. I'm a teacher, and so
Yeah, yeah,
teachers
yeah.
are very biased.
I know.
And I know my daughter went to community college, and I'm not gonna lie to you. Some people were like, oh, that's
Oh,
okay.
poor thing.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
And I'm like, so back then, I don't know, like, what made your
Same.
choice to go to community college and
It was the
what was it?
same. Because when my mom passed when I was in right as I finished my first year of high school.
Okay.
Second year of high school, I didn't care about school.
Yeah.
I was traumatized and didn't have the word
Absolutely.
traumatized then. Just like really sad and depressed, and basically just did enough that I thought to do to get by, but it wasn't enough because I was in a college prep school.
Right.
So in Michigan, Cass Tech, you have to maintain that grade point average to stay in there. Unfortunately, I didn't have the proper counseling for that counselor to check in to say, hey, what's happening? I know your mom just died. Are you okay? Where are you living? How's your family? What's going on?
Wow. Right. Oh my goodness.
It was just like, your grades dropped. You're out of here. And I didn't know how to advocate for myself. Like, again, the guidebook wasn't there. And my siblings didn't attend a college prep school, so they didn't know what to do either. And they
Right.
weren't that much older than me. So we were navigating against adults. And again, they weren't like, my education was not their priority. Right.
Absolutely.
And so then that's what I qualified for, essentially. I
Okay.
didn't learn about HBCUs in high school, which was really shocking given that Detroit was one of the blackest cities in the country at that time in the 70s. In the
Oh
early.
wow. You
Yeah.
didn't tell us about Detroit. We'll come back to that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so so I didn't know that I could have had options. Perhaps I could have gotten accepted to another HBCU regardless of
Maybe.
what my grade point average was, but I didn't know that whole, system existed. I may have heard a name or two, but it wasn't like a full comprehension of what it was and what it is. It wasn't taught that way to me. And I didn't know anybody that went to any of those institutions. So um,
Okay.
you know, knowledge is everything, right?
Yeah, I had a counselor at my school. Um, he was like an extra one that came sometimes. I went to three different high schools, which is a whole nother
Same
thing.
here.
But my
Same here.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yes, I did. And that senior year, he was like, I help people with black colleges. I think he was not there regularly, but he was there specifically to talk to us about black colleges. And he like would just approach you and say, hey, where are you going to go? What are you going to do?
Right.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
our counselors were just processing us. There wasn't, at least mine. And
do
he
you
was an
make that
older
connection?
Italian man and, probably close to retirement at that time. Who knows? I have no
That
idea.
makes a difference. Again,
Could have been
yeah.
overwhelmed as well because there was over 900 students in that school in downtown Detroit. So Cass Tech High School, shout out to Cass Tech.
And
Still
he
my,
was the only counselor.
no, he was my counselor.
Okay, just different counselor. Okay.
Yeah, there was.
Um, and because you're going through the trauma, would your friend group is what really got you through? Was the writing? What was the thing that really got you through, you think?
I don't know if I can say that out loud. But I would say just the wanting to be out of my brother's house was the thing that got me too. Sometimes it's a negative that pulls you through versus a positive.
Is that
Um,
what you're saying you can't say out loud, or you're not saying the thing that could?
no, I was going to be flippant and say pot, but it didn't get me through.
Okay, we got to edit that out.
Edit
No, I'm
that
just
out.
playing. Well, our kids aren't perfect, right? Our kids
Right?
aren't perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and obviously you didn't have the supervision or the support. We know that people, it doesn't vilify you, right? But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's self-medication. I like, it
It
is what it
was,
is. Yeah.
and and it wasn't all the time. It was social, right? Because that's what the other kids were doing, and they seemed to be okay. So yeah, so that thing. But I wouldn't advocate for that for anyone because it
Yeah.
all it really did was make me really sleepy and silly. That's the two things, and hungry. Those three
Okay.
things, like sleepy, hungry, and silly. And so that's kind of no way to be successful in the world. So I, stopped.
Well, it's something we need to talk about, right? We know
Yeah,
that some of our kids
yeah,
are partaking, and how do we help them? How do we, get them to see, like, how this is not a supportive for them or leading to their next level.
yeah,
So it's something to talk about. Can't just
yeah,
ignore it.
yeah. That, and also the fear of trying something harder. It's like, no, I'm not, because that was during the time when the epidemic happened, the crack epidemic, and I was like, oh no,
Hmm.
I'm not going down like that. I'm done. Thank you very much. On to
Yes,
the next
yes.
thing. So I would say that in my car. My brother did give me his Volkswagen Beetle that was
Oh,
in the driveway that had to be repaired monthly, but that's okay. I had a
small blessings, right? Small blessing.
so I was able to navigate and get around the city much easier because it did take me an hour by city bus to get to Cass Tech when I was going there for the 2 years that I attended. And then when I moved in with him after we moved out of my mom's house, I he gave me a car. And so that was really great. It was my little Vito, and I'm 5'9", and my one of my best friends was 5'10", and both of us were dating basketball players who were like 6'4" and 6'6", and if you saw us all getting out of that Vito, we looked like a spider coming out with all the legs exiting first. It's like sitting with your knees up. Yeah, yeah. High school.
Yes. Tell us about your book.
My books, plural. So my first book is called 50 Years of Assimilation. I don't know if you can see it here. Yeah, you can a little bit there.
Yes.
This book is called 50 Years of Assimilation from the Midwest, Detroit, to the woke West and all the blackness and whiteness in between. And this book was my it was kind of my way of trying to make a difference post the Trayvon Martin murder and the acquittal of his killer. My son was 10 at the time, and I was concerned for his health and well-being in this society that is going to stand your ground and pick a fight. And
Mm.
so I didn't know what to do with my emotions, and two things happened. I wrote another book that I have not published yet still.
Okay.
um and I'm not going to say the name of that one yet.
Okay. Forthcoming novel. Yeah. So we'll get,
It's not a novel. It was a short story, and it was actually a kind of a dark
okay.
children's story. Um, yeah, I'm gonna stop because I don't want to say too much about that. But anyway, that was my anger, and then the 50 years of assimilation was my solution. Like
Okay.
people learned more about us, they would be less afraid, right? And
Mm-hmm.
maybe hate less. And so that was the psychology in my mind at the time when I wrote the book. So it was my dream report to Dr. King, because my generation inherited his dream of integration via the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so I was kind of the first generation, me and his daughter Bernice King,
Yes.
to go into the world now that we're, integrated legally. And as you know from history, and as I know from experience, it wasn't really integration and more of assimilation. They just wanted us to be like them, teach us to exist in their world,
Yes.
their cultures. Like, this is how we do things, and this is how you're going to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was assimilation, right? And so, and 50 years. So I take Dr. King. I wrote the book as a series of letters, which is called epistolary style. And the mechanics of that allowed me to have it be very personal and very intimate. So decade by decade, I share with Dr. King how his dream of integration played out in my life as assimilation. And so I
Mm.
start off in childhood, and I go all the way to the election of President Obama. So that's the 50 years part. Um, and yeah, it's a great book.
Well,
It's
I
on
just want to,
Amazon,
yeah.
available now. Go ahead.
Yes, it'll be in the show notes. I really want to say, like, going back, the very first thing I thought about when you said, pot or, smoking weed was something that, that you got into after your mother died, is that is Trayvon Martin. I actually thought about him
Mm,
first
wow.
because, when he died, people, and again, I don't even know who reported this stuff about him, right?
Right.
Like, because
Right.
it's not, I don't know if it was school people, like, who leaked this information about this young man,
Mhm, mhm.
right? So he was killed walking home, they assumed he was doing something and
Suspicious.
attacked him.
Right.
Yes. And then it's like, oh, well, he smoked pot. He was kicked out as like, okay, okay, so that justified him
Right.
dying,
Right.
right? Like, are we being serious right now?
Right.
Let's leak this, and now
Right.
you'll know he really
Yeah.
should have. Like, really?
Yeah.
So, that he was the first thing that popped into my mind when you
That's
said the
interesting.
pot, because it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's the thing. Okay, now we know that's not a good kid. That's a
Mhm,
kid. There's no hope for them,
mhm,
and and it's like that is not true. And
mhm.
we know it's not just black kids.
Yeah.
It is not just
Yes.
black kids. But of
Yeah.
course, this was something. Okay, let's leak this damning information
Villainize
about
him and
him.
to make him
Yeah.
unworthy of life. Yeah.
Right. But it's
Yeah.
something that, we obviously as parents need to, help our children navigate, our students navigate if that's what they are doing, to see, like, how does this help support your future, right? It's for them to think about it, talk about it. Um, we can't ignore that that's not what that they may be doing that.
Mhm.
But vilifying them is something we shouldn't be doing, right?
Right.
So I'm so glad you brought that up, because
Mhm.
again, for the Falling for Learning podcast, these are all things that we may deal with our
Yeah.
kids.
You
And
gotta
how do we
navigate
help
all.
support them? How do we help?
Exactly.
Okay, you did this. It wasn't the best choice. It wasn't, you're too young to be doing that, whatever, however people feel about it, because there's
Mhm.
lots of ideas about how it is. And I'm not advocating one way or another. We know that our young kids, we don't want them doing that.
Right.
But okay, so now what? How do we help them? How do we let them know that their choices are not who they are,
Right.
right?
Right.
But
Right.
of
I think
course, this
I like how Brian Stevens says it. Stevenson, excuse me, says it. He's a civil rights attorney down in Montgomery. That you're greater than the worst thing that you've ever done.
right. And is that
Mhm.
the worst thing he did? Like, I was like, this is what you came up with? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
all right.
As this book is called Reclaiming the Jungle, and that's abolishing the myth, reclaiming the jungle, abolishing the myth from the rooter to the tutor. And I used rooted to kind of acknowledge my parents' Southern roots, because they were part of the generation that migrated
Okay.
north for a better life, escaping Jim Crow.
Yes.
And but the myth is white male supremacy, right? And abolishing the myth is important. So the first book, 50 Years, was more cultural and societal. But this book is more psychological, because why I started this book was as part of an HR team, we were doing DEI work for our company, and we were researching resources to use to develop training for our employees. And we ran across the IAT test, which is the implicit association test, and it tests
Mm.
your levels of unconscious bias. And so before we were able to share that with the team, we all took the test ourselves so we could see, if it's a viable tool that we want to use. And I took the test and my results came back that I had an unconscious bias as an affinity for white men. And I lost it because I'm like, how is that even possible given my background and where I grew up in the household of six
Whoa.
father, grandfather, uncles, cousins, black boy crushes my whole entire
So
school life.
you didn't know that those answers that you were putting actually were still favoring white men.
Well, yeah, I mean, no, you don't know what the results are until you get the results,
No,
right?
no,
So,
that's what I'm saying. But
yeah, I didn't
but
know
your
that
answers were
the
showing that
diagnosis was, yeah,
oh my goodness, and you had no idea, and not consciously at all. So
not.
it's not, you were not expecting. Oh my gosh, you
And I
lost
was
it.
going to retake the test because I'm like, this can't be
Like
right. That
no,
makes no
hell
sense
no.
whatsoever, right? And then I didn't retake the test because I knew I would be trying to game the test. I'd be trying to put my,
Yes, but you can
organizational
fix
behavior
it
science
now.
head on and figure out what the right answer is. So I let it stand. And then I saw this Netflix series with another civil rights attorney. I think it's Jeffrey Wright or Jeffrey Williams. I'm forgetting the name of it. But
It's okay. We'll
anyways,
find it.
he shared that he had taken that same test. And his results came back that he was afraid of black men and he was a black man.
Yikes! Oh
And so
my gosh.
I was like, okay, there's something here. Like, what is it? And then my answer was TV and media. And if you think about it, the programming,
It is. Yes.
casting as the end all, the white all. And right now we're in a hyper, you know, level of that psychology, right?
Yikes.
Um, so in a young mind, I'm watching Leave It to Beaver and Happy Days and all the things and the Cartwrights on Bonanza and
Yes. Yes.
John
Yes.
Wayne
Yes.
and True Grit and all the, cowboy western movies with all
Absolutely.
Superman, all Batman, all the things, right? And so it makes total sense. And which is the other piece of why it's so important for our children to learn how to write themselves and to develop their own stories and be the heroes of their own stories, because
Absolutely.
we're up against mountains of that right now with the internet and AI. Just like they have got to have facility and confidence, and courage to be who they are and learn and to understand that it's just as valuable, if not more, and that our stories that we tell ourselves need to be including us in the highlights of life, not just the oppression of life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so that's what this book about. It goes more into the psychology of how it happened to me. I use a personal perspective because I'm
Yeah.
writing. Yeah. And it's kind of a cautionary tale. And this is be available next month in July.
Oof. Okay. So tell us, your website, your information, so people can
Yes.
reach you for the Little Authors Bookmaking event at the Obama Presidential Center, and as well as other events and books and all of that you have to offer.
Yes, so Flow Up Productions is my company, and an easier way to remember is just flow up today. Every day you want to flow up as opposed to down. And flowuptoday.com, it'll have both all the events that are coming up, not just the Obama event, but all of the events that I'm involving myself in and
Mm-hmm.
putting out there for others to participate. Also, links to my books. 50 Years of Assimilation is available now on Amazon. And in the middle of July, all of them will be available. And Reclaiming the Jungle will also be available as well on all platforms and anywhere you buy books.
Love that. Okay. Wanda, thank you so much for joining us today, for gracing us with your presence, just giving us so much insight about, what it takes to help children fall in love with learning, navigate the
Yeah,
ups and downs,
yeah,
that they may encounter as
yeah.
they're growing. Um, Thanks so much. And
Thank-
for our listeners and our viewers out there, do something today that gives your child the competitive advantage.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for supporting the Falling for Learning podcast. New episodes go live every Saturday at 5 p.m. You can watch us on youtube.com at Falling for Learning or listen on all major podcast platforms such as Apple, Google, Audible, Spotify, and much more. For more resources, visit fallinginlovewithlearning.com. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful week.